Hot topic: employees of Reddit. What are your horror stories? My current boss was a former store manager at a Hot Topic, and he told me that he caught one of his employees stealing a shirt he had stuffed into a Sonic cup. From then on out, everyone had to check bags and beverages for merchandise. I work at a UPS warehouse, and there's a story that goes around about a guy who smuggled diamonds out by putting it in his water and saying it was crushed ice. So now they make us dump out our drinks before we leave. I heard a story about a manager at Spencer's that got caught in a store check by loss prevention. She was cleared of any wrongdoing, and on her way home for the day, she had a can of Pringles she was taking home, and the LP manager jokingly asked to see inside the can. It stopped being funny when the girl's face went white. She'd shoved a bunch of jewelry into the can and hidden it under a couple of chips. Needless to say, she got fired, and now checking bottles and thermoses is a thing. After our left office depot, they started doing bag checks and occasionally having staff pat themselves down. This was because my replacement was terminated after a couple months when the store manager noticed he had a large ergonomic keyboard stuffed into his pants leg. A petite friend is currently a manager at one, and her issue is always a customer that become too often repeat customer obsessed with her or another female employee. Currently it's a guy that swears they would have everything in common because he likes all the things in the store too, as if she curated it, and now has to stay 500 feet from the store. I heard stories like this from my local one several times. They ended up promoting this giant shit kika goth chick with purple hair to manager, and she would straight up threaten creepy dudes, had zero problem calling security or police if someone was harassing an employee. I went to community college with a girl who worked there, and she said about 2 weeks after that manager got hired, nobody had been harassed since. How to find the perfect HT manager: pick the scariest, most intimidating person you can find. I have known a few shit kicker goth chicks with rad hair, and what's crazy is despite their appearance, all of them have been the most compassionate, caring, loving people I have ever met. Including shit kicking people for harassing friends or co-workers. Lol. Not a horror story but a ridiculous short one. I had a woman come in with her sleeping infant and screamed at me to turn off the music while she strolled around the store. I mean, if your baby is sleeping and you want them to continue, maybe don't come to browse the store that you can hear music blasting from the other side of the mall. IDK, what to tell ya, haha. I've been in a few HTs though where the music was so fucking loud it was actually hurting my ears. Made me feel old. Maybe that's the gatekeeper. If it's too loud, you're too old to shop here. This is my time to shine. I was helping a lady at the Disney section. She was pretty particular about the things she wanted and was asking if they looked okay enough for her. Being my first job, I was really enthusiastic about being a salesperson, and I really do love Disney. So I was hyping her up the best I could, and we're laughing together, getting along really well. Then she says, "Yeah, I wanted to get all the same things my boyfriend's baby mama has. Is that weird?" Literally did not know how to respond. I said it wasn't and cashed her out quick. I want to look just like her. Q maniacal laughing, Q black and red dramatic lighting, Q Trixie Metal shrinking down behind the service counter. Why do older creeps always mention how we remind them of their daughter? That's the least sexy thing in the world. Edit. Okay, since I've had to explain this 10 times now, a consensual encounter involving a kink is different than harassing a stranger who does not consent. This is kindergarten stuff, people. Edit 2. If you're here to make a joke about the president or the Deep South, it's already been made. Yes. This is always a great way to snap back, and it's a good way to gauge their creep factor. I'm a pretty generic looking young lady and this line gets thrown at me often. If you say something like "you kinda remind me of my dad too" and they just chuckle, you generally don't have to worry about them. It's the ones who insist that they couldn't possibly be old enough to be your father, or something to a similar effect. Those are the ones that follow you out your car. From the sounds of this thread, corporate Hot Topic implemented appearance guidelines or something another. Maybe like Hollister before the scandal. Not really corporate, more like store managers and sometimes district managers. Corporate rarely cared what we wore as long as it wasn't offensive. They never pushed for specific looks or clothes, and rather everyone have their own style. I'm kinda shocked that people were forced to wear certain outfits. Those managers sound awful. Half the time I wore jeans and a hoodie. Halloween was about the only time they cared, and even then you could dress up however and say it was a costume. Source: worked at a store for 8 years. OMG, I worked at Victoria's Secret and we got this all the time. Even though we were required to dress pretty conservatively, black slacks or a skirt, black jacket, white blouse underneath. So many creepers. Always asking us to model the merch. Or, you're about my wife's size, her breasts are a little bigger, and she probably doesn't weigh quite as much as you do. I love the part where he says you must give your soul to me and the cashier is like oh my god in his customer service voice. Bless him for being so patient with this guy. I'm sorry I didn't close up on time. The Eternal Dragon, Guardian of Time, was still shopping and I wasn't going to try to push a dragon out of the store. He did do the buy to get one free on anime rubber bracelets and signed up for the credit card though. Can't tell you how many times I had to convince people they weren't in Spencer's. Where's your weed socks? We don't sell that stuff. Yes you do. My friend bought them here. Rinse. Repeat. Your friend was in Spencer's. Looks around. Bewildered. Hold up. Where am I right now? When I was 12 I went Christmas shopping at the mall with my mom's friend who was our church organist. We thought Spencer's looked fun because they had all that cool lava lamp stuff in the front window. We got halfway into the store, saw some posters of topless women, and I felt a vice grip on my arm as she hissed we're leaving. Fantastically awkward. Man, if you are a dude of a certain age, Spencer's was one of the only places you could safely and reliably fill up the ol' spank bank without getting in trouble. I went back a year ago and it's like all weed stuff now. Maybe it always was and I just ignored it all for the Kathy Ireland poster J in the back. The one in the town I grew up in was basically a split of 25% sexual stuff, 25% pop culture clothing, 25% stoner lighting, black lights, that lighting bulb thing, etc, and 25% gag gifts. It has not changed other than showing more pot leaves on stuff. Reminds me of a shop I used to go to where I grew up. It's called Tribal Weaver and it used to be a small room full of hippie shit and incenses and whatnot with a small closet tucked away where you could buy a pipe or bong and a little weed under the table. Now, the whole ship is pipes, bongs, weed, and Molly t-shirts. We had a similar one that eventually got shut down for selling bath salts after they made them illegal. Dude made millions, spent a year in prison with work release, kept most of the money. Funny thing was when they raided the place they threw all the bongs and pipes in the dumpster behind the store and just left. All the other mall employees saw it and a few of them went dumpster diving and pulled thousands of dollars in glassware out of it. My sister worked at one for a little while. One day two grown men were fighting over a pop. It's like a collectible figure. Like a legit fight. She said it was like the comic book guy from The Simpsons fighting another comic book guy from The Simpsons. My sister called mall security and noped the hell out of their way. Neither one of them got the pop. My sister had to put all the stuff back that they knocked over. I was in my 20s and working at HT when Twilight came out. That Christmas season was probably the worst of the 7 years I worked there. So many moms screaming at me for being out of Team Edward shirts 3 days before Christmas like it was my fault they waited until the last minute to shop lol. I believe it, even if OP is male. This was around the time that skinny jeans were starting to be worn by guys and clothing companies hadn't started making them for guys yet. When I was around that age we used to wear chick jeans which, TBH, we're stretchier and more comfortable anyway. Chick jeans, super small shirt with an ironic phrase, slight makeup application. Sounds like every dude I knew who was in an emo band in the early 2000s. Also, that was a pretty appealing look to a more goth girl. Edit, spelling. I was thinking oh, so Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, those guys? That could be neat. Hold up, Edgine edit. For my ideas, January, Norman Bates, Psycho, February, The Miner, My Bloody Valentine, March, Leprechaun, April, Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street, May, Chucky, Child's Play, June, Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th, July, Jigsaw, Saw, August, The Cenobites, Hellraiser, September, Ghostface, Scream, October, Michael Myers, Halloween, November, The Sawyer Family, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, December, Billy, Black Christmas.